Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day yesterday. And thank you for joining us today for taking a bite out of the RAPTOR system, the system explained. So today for the presenters, you'll have myself, Aurora Garcia. I am the Worker Safety Support Specialist for Regions 8 and 11. I'll be joined by Mr. Douglas Cameron, who's the Region Specialist for Regions 4, 5, and 6. And we have our Education Specialist, Ms. Felicia Pin, also joining us today. She'll be available to answer any specific questions you may have regarding the school. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand it out to Mr. Douglas Cameron. Thank you.
Hey everyone, like you said, my name is Douglas Cameron. I cover regions 4, 5, and 6. I'm the worker space safety specialist for those areas. This is a slide of our team. Of course, it's myself and Aurora. We also have Katie McCoy, who covers regions 1, 2, 3, and 9. Takoya Singletary, she covers region 7, 10, state office and statewide intake. Marcus Levias, Marcus is our management analyst. He's our go-to guy for all our data, policy changes and things of that nature. And then Danielle Gutierrez, who's our alert media administrator, and she handles all of our social media and things like that. And then, of course, our director, Lindsay Thomason. So if you ever need to get in contact with us, our new motto is our old motto, vision statement is everyone goes home safe. Worker safety support provides assistance to all DFPS employees. If you can use your camera now with this QR code, and it'll help assist you filling out incident reports with us. You can go on the internet also, go to health and safety, and then click worker safety support. There's a lot of good information there about worker safety. There's handouts, PowerPoint slides, everything that you may need worker safety. And if you need to reach out to us as well, our information is on there also. So our objectives for today. Today, of course, participants will have a better understanding of what the RAPTOR system is. You also get a better understanding of what information is obtained from a state issued ID after it's run through the RAPTOR system, and then you'll also understand why state issued IDs are required for anyone who enters school property and what they do with the photocopy. So, biggest question for most people, what is the RAPTOR system? For those that don't know, it's basically a system it's a visitor tracking system that reads visitors' driver's license or other government issued photo IDs, and it compares information to a sex offender database and alerts the campus administrators if it's a match that's found. If no match is found, of course, it prints a visitor's badge that includes a photo of yourself. So some of the common misconceptions that are out there that some people think, hey, I'm exempt from having to give my driver's license because I'm a DFPS employee and have a special clearance for confidentiality. And also the biggest one is that the school will take your personal information from the RAPTOR system and give it to parents. Somebody has their hand up. Amanda. Amanda has a question. You can just, Amanda, if you raise your hand, if you have a question, you can just turn your mic on and ask your question.
I have a quick question with that because I have run into experiences where parents have ended up requesting school records, or the case is transferred and they've gotten school records and they've ended up with our information. So how do we protect ourselves from that? Because I know you're saying it's a common misconception that the parents are going to get our information, but I've had coworkers experience that. So how do we get around that?
I'll let Felicia take that one.
Sure. The only information that they should be able to receive would be your name and where you work, because the only thing that they're going to request would be in the school record, but maybe a copy of your state badge. They can't get the driver's license. The driver's license should never be a part of it. So if you're giving them a business card, any
Well-
information on that business card will be given to them.
Right. No, and I get that, but like when I've gone to schools to like pick up a kid or things like that, they've asked for like their ID so they can scan it into the system, and so it's kind of like a protection for them. So like if something was to happen, like they can be able to, like, they say it so they can notify like law enforcement who the kid was released to. And I 100% understand and can respect that for the protection. But what I've also noticed from getting school records is I've seen IDs like in the schools, in the child's records. So like my fear is like when they say like, oh, we're not gonna put that in the case file, and then it does, and then a parent requests school records and they get that because they want our driver's license for when we're picking up that child.
Gotcha. And I know they will cover that a little further in the presentation, but they should never be making a copy of your driver's license. And the RAPTOR does not print out any documentation for them to provide in a child's folder.
Okay. Okay.
Doug, I think we're going to hold questions until the end. So if everyone would
Okay.
just type what questions they have in there, because I think we'll have some time at the end and then we can answer those.
That'll work. So what does state law say? The state law for school visitors. Appendix A, a school district may require a person who enters the property under the district's control to display the person's driver's license, another form of identification containing the person's photograph issued by a government entity, or, if applicable, the person's district employee or student identification. The person must provide the identification on request. A school district may eject a person from a district property if, one, the person refuses or fails to provide on request identification described by subsection A, and section 2, it reasonably appears that the person has no legitimate reason to be on the district property. A school district may verify whether a visitor to the district campus is a sex offender registered with the computerized central database maintained by the Department of Public Safety as provided by Article 62.005 Code of Criminal Procedure, or any other database accessible to the district. So how does the RAPTOR system work? The RAPTOR system scans your driver's license, and then from there, such information such as your name, date of birth, partial license number, and photograph for more comparison with the national database for 50 states of registered sex offenders. This information cannot be attained using your work badge. Additionally, additional data will not be gathered from your driver's license. No data will be shared with outside companies or organizations. So is my personal information confidential? A district may establish an electronic database for the purpose of storing information concerning visitors to the district campus. Information stored in the electronic database may be used only for the purposes of the school district security and may not be sold or otherwise disseminated to a third-party company for this purpose. I will say, this is not on the slide. Felicia, I think you made the comment earlier that they can give their names. That's what you said, correct? A person can
Right.
find
So
out
anything that you would, anything that you would have on a business card is the information that a parent would get.
Right. So a parent can find your personal information not from the RAPTOR system. If they obtain your name, which if you're going to the school to talk to their kid, eventually you're going to have to give them your name anyway. Once you give them your name, Google is one of the most powerful tools on the face of the earth. They can find your personal information. There's websites out there that'll show your name, your address, every phone number you've ever had, every address you've ever stayed at, and family members that are in your household or not in your household. So you can't always assume that that information came from the RAPTOR system, because it's very, very easy to find everybody on this meeting. It's very easy to find your personal information. So is any of this information from my driver's license stored in the student's contact folder. No, however, many schools do save the caseworker's name and date that they visit the schools. Schools may also make a copy of your DFPS issued work badge, and this can be stored in the student's contact folder. So this may happen a lot. I've been to the school where they have made a Xerox copy of my driver's license before. Should this be allowed? Very first bullet point, schools should not be making photocopies of your driver's license. You have the right to request that they make a copy, only allowing them to run it through the RAPTOR system. Schools may make copies of your DFPS state issued badge though. So, can parents ask to be notified if a DFPS employee goes to speak with their child? Yes, they can. Yes, the school may provide the parents a caseworker's name and the contact information, but no other personal information. Best practice is to provide a business card to the school that can be given to the parent. So this slide right here, this is all of our education specialists. Each region has an education specialist. Do not hesitate to reach out to your specialist in your area if you ever have any issues when going into the school districts. I believe that they're all more than willing to answer whatever questions you need. And then if there are any concerns that do come up, these are the people that can help you with the issues that you're having. So some of the takeaways that we have: if a school district has a policy requiring visitors to provide a driver's license that will be run through the RAPTOR system, DFPS staff must comply. Schools should not be asking to make photocopies of your driver's license. And then also, schools may make copies of your DFPS badge. And also, like we said before, DFP employees should provide their business card to the schools. And then contact your education specialist with any specific questions or concerns that you may have. So we're going to open the floor up for any questions that you guys may have. I'm looking in the chat.
So Doug, there were a couple. One question, and we may have to reach out. We may not know the answer to this and get back to people, but do teachers have access to get information out of the RAPTOR system?
No, they do not. It is not widely for everybody at a school to have access to it. Only certain people will be able to obtain any information stored in that RAPTOR.
Okay. Another similar question, what about when you have family members that work at the school? Can they get access to that information? Like the school secretary or maybe the school counselor?
They shouldn't have access to the RAPTOR. It's not just for any staff. It's mainly for the higher administration, like superintendent, assistant superintendent can pull from the school's RAPTOR systems, but not necessarily just anybody that is employed by that district or that school per se. They may know if you allow them to make a copy of your driver's license, which we've informed you, do not let them do that. As long as they're not making a copy, or you can always say there's a family member there that you may not want to have access to it, so they can put somebody else in place that you will be working with versus that family member. You can always put those precautions in place.
Okay. There's a lot of, I guess, just comments and questions coming in, Felicia, and maybe this is where they need to get with their education specialist, but they're saying that schools are saying they have to make a copy of their driver's license or they're not going to allow them access to the kids.
Okay. And if they run into that, because that is completely not If they run into that problem, yes, they do need to contact their education specialist or the district's foster care liaison. Every district has a foster care liaison. That school registers or whoever's at the front desk should have the knowledge of that person and can make a phone call on the spot to find out if that is the case. They should not be making a copy of the driver's license. But please do, yes, let us know which schools you're running into those problems with so that we can get out and educate them right away.
Thank you. Do private and charter schools also use the RAPTOR system?
Charter schools should use the same systems that our public schools are using. I'm not 100% on the private schools because they kind of do things their own way. So you may run into problems with them because, like we say, they're private. But charter schools should have the same policies as our public schools have and same systems in place.
Okay. Who's ever doing the PowerPoint, can y'all roll it back? They're asking to roll it back to the educational specialist slide so they can see. Y'all may get an influx of emails today. Sorry. So there's a lot of chat wanting just to clarify. So if they go to a school and a school is saying, I want your state ID and your driver's license, and I'm going to make a copy of them, we can say, you can have my business ID and you can run my driver's license through the RAPTOR system, but you're not going to photocopy my driver's license.
Absolutely, that is correct. And what I know, a few of the ed specialists are on this call now. So what I'll do is I'll ask them to also, we'll create a letter to have on hand so that everybody can share with the schools when you go up to the desk. Just like we used to have an MOU where we didn't have to give them our driver's license, then things rapidly changed with all the violence that was happening in schools and so forth, things changed. So we can go back and make another letter addressing the copy of the driver's license itself.
Okay. Yeah, I think that because someone put a suggestion. They said, how about providing a newsletter to the school or districts on a quarterly basis regarding the state laws about what we're required to do?
As it stands now, ed specialists do send out a monthly letter across the state. So they're doing it for their workers, they're doing it for their child placement agencies, they're doing it for schools. They are providing information and updates, but just like us with new staff and turnover, schools are facing the same thing. So it's a constant roller coaster trying to keep things going with them. But yeah, we do that, but we will increase regarding the driver's license situation.
Okay. What should we do with schools that already have copies of our driver's license in the files?
You can always ask for those copies. They shouldn't have them. So you can ask for them and destroy them yourself. If they give you any backlash on that, contact your ed specialist so we can take care of it. Okay.
Someone wrote a long legal question, so I'm going to ask that you come off mute and ask about that because it's a lot to read and you probably can make it more concise. William? Okay, well, maybe it's a long code. William, if you want to come off and ask what the specific question is, then maybe we can answer it for you. I'm not sure. It looks like maybe it's a bunch of Texas family code and they're asking, does this not apply anymore?
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is an opinion. I'm not quite sure when the year was, but it's from our what would they call it? The Attorney General's office here in Texas, from what I understand. And it actually says that we're not part of why that system was even developed, that they don't need to run our driver's license or scan them through the RAPTOR system. And it was their opinion that says It is our opinion that the legislator did not intend that CPS investigators and law enforcement personnel conducting investigations on school campuses be considered school contractors subject to the criminal history provisions of the Texas Education Code 22.0834. Because we're mandated to be there by law.
And that's right. But the problem with our license, but the IDs is all of our IDs look the same, whether you're an investigator or whether you're a CVS worker, an adoption worker, all of those IDs look the same. So schools are having a hard time distinguishing who is who. So it was a lot easier just to give a blanket, and anybody coming into the school, whether you're there on a business or not, you're to use the RAPTOR system. So it's not just us, it is across the board. If a judge goes to the school, he has to do the same.
They provided a link to search what personnel is who.
What link is that? I've never heard of a link that they could search.
I posted it. It's in that chat. The actual hyperlink is right there.
I put it in the
blue.
Felicia. It's from HHSD. I do know that there was something that was sent out several years ago by DFPS, right, and it was a letter that stated the same thing. But since that time, we have retracted that statement because that is not true. Some laws have changed, and there's been a separate opinion put out about it.
Do we have a copy of that second opinion?
So that was the MOU I was referring to that we had back in the day, but things started to change in the schools district, so we had to make changes as well.
So someone asked, some schools have electronic check-in. How much info are we required to give? So it's by Edward Ross.
The same that was listed in the PowerPoint, you're gonna give your name, and you don't have to give any type of the driver's license if they're not doing the RAPTOR system. And where you work, you give the bare minimum for those systems. You don't need to give date of birth and address, all of that. None of that needs to be added.
Edward, does that answer your question? And it looks like Dabney put something in from 2018, which looks like the memo that talks about needing to provide our driver's license to schools and what the RAPTOR system will be taking. So it looks like, William, the link that you sent, people are saying it isn't working any longer. So it just could be outdated. Any other questions that we haven't gotten to? There's a lot.
Ms. Felicia, I see one that some schools have asked caseworkers for their driver license, and they've kept them until they return the visitor pass. Should schools be doing that?
They have done that versus making a copy, and then that's how they're keeping track of who's on campus and who's left and who's not, because not everybody stops by to sign out. So if they have your driver's license, then they know you've left and you've signed out. So, but they still shouldn't be making a copy. Yeah, they do keep them, and you kind of exchange your sticker for your driver's license. So your little sticker ID, they take that and they give you your driver's license back. So, I mean, you can still ask them if you're afraid that once you're on the school grounds doing your business, that they're making a copy. You can always ask, did you make a copy? Can I have that copy back?
And I see Francisco Tovar stated, schools say that they cannot use RDFPS ID as it is invalid for school and they always need the ID. Again, guys, you need to provide your driver license so that it can be scanned through the RAPTOR system. They cannot do that with RDFPS ID badges. So you have to provide your driver license. They are not to make copies of it.
Felicia, there's a question from a childcare investigator that does the RAPTOR system at daycares work the same way? Or how they're being signed in? Is that different?
Unfortunately, I'm not sure about daycare situations. I don't know if they use the same type. I would assume it would be, but I'm not 100%.
It might be good to add, I mean, now that we're having this conversation, like asking what information they're retaining or what their system is taking, and we may need to talk to legal or talk to someone about maybe if the laws for daycares are different than schools and what is required and what's not required. So that's a good question, Corey.
Marissa's question: we give our driver's license each time we visit the school, regardless to how often we go to the school. Every time you touch that campus, you have to provide identification.
Doug, we have 3 people with their hands raised. You want to start taking them one by one? Or first one is Soraya. I can't see her in time.
Yeah. Soraya Vasquez, what's your question?
It's okay. I already got it answered a while back.
Okay. Angela Horn. Angela, do you have a question? What about Ana Preciado? I see she has her hand up.
It is. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. As a parent, I do want every driver's license to go through the school. To me, it doesn't matter who you work for, but the state of Texas is public record. We are supposed to identify and again leave your driver's license. So depending on the community that you live in, not just Google, but kids talk just like adults talk, and they're going to find out where you live or whatever it is. We're so concerned about people knowing. I mean, my kids are involved in so many activities and I'm a part of so many team things that there's people that know absolutely everything, things I wish they didn't know. So I guess I'm just not sure what we're so concerned about. These jobs that we take, they may put us at a higher risk for retaliation. However, those are things we all know coming in. And like I said, as a parent, yes, I do want every single driver's license. I know in my case, in our school, if they keep my driver's license on file, it's because so they don't have to scan it every time and so that they don't have to ask, because sometimes they're busy. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I just don't understand why we're upset about that. Sorry.
I think what it is some people are nervous about parents obtaining their personal information from that system. But it's like I said earlier, that system is not what your concern should be with parents finding your personal information. Because as workers, when you go knock on that family's door and you hand them the business card, I'm sure 9 times out of 10, those families are Googling you in front of your face. So your personal information can be found anywhere. All of you, when you get a chance, go to truepeoplesearch.com. All of your personal information is there. All of it. And then your mother and your father and your sister, brother's names will be there as well. And then they can click on those people's names and see all of their personal information. So it's not just the RAPTOR system that a parent can get your personal information from. Because if you're going to the school to talk to my kid, that means you have to tell me eventually who you are and why you're speaking to my kid. So I can get that information whether or not you want me to or not.
Yeah, and I think it might be what you're getting at, Doug, is it might be a little bit the confusion, and we're teasing that out. That's why we're having this session, is that the RAPTOR system is not maintaining any of your personal information outside of your name. It's when the schools are asking to photocopy your driver's license,
Right.
and that information is, and we've talked about how to resolve that or start working with the education specialists to resolve that. So I think that knowledge is power. As far, I see some comments about like, well, if I leave my driver's license or I show it to them and they happen to write it down, I mean, I think there is no 100% guarantee that you can't say that somebody is going to do that or not do that. There's bad apples in law enforcement. There's bad apples in our agency. There's bad apples in every profession. And so, we kind of have to make that decision and that determination. And are we comfortable enough to take that risk? And if we're not, then there's other choices that have to be made around that. I thought there was a good question that I don't think that we answered. It said, does anyone know how long our information is stored in the RAPTOR system? Or does it just go in to check it and then say,
Yes, it just goes.
yes or no, there's a match, and then it forgets the information that was put in?
I don't know how long. If you can get that person's name, I will find out how long. I know it's not dumped daily. It is stored, but how many months, or if it's just a semester, or if it's a school year, that I'm not sure. I have to follow up with that, and I can tell you the answer later.
Can
Do you
get
know who asked that question? So I can send them the email.
Emily Moore, Moore. And then I just wanted a point of clarification, Felicia. Someone was saying if law enforcement isn't required to give their personal IDs, why should it be required? And I thought I heard you say, though, that law enforcement could be required as well. They're not exempt.
Right. We have been told that everybody is required to show their ID, no matter who you are when you come onto the school grounds, unless you're an employee of that school, of the district.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, my name is Lorraine Walker. I just wanted to piggyback what Mr. Cameron was saying, that our information is out there. I have taken that the protectors class, and I have had my stuff wiped off the internet several times. We've even paid and had it wiped off, and it's still going to be on there multiple times a year. That I quit paying for it because if you
Yep.
if you apply for credit, if you have a bank account, they're all selling your information. Our telephone companies are selling our information. So the only thing that and that don't even work, the thing that we send to the county to remove our mortgage information off the that doesn't even work, because they somehow find that out because they get it through your mortgage company. So it's like impossible. The technology today, it's impossible to remove you. They if somebody wants to know exactly my address, they could show up to my door at any time. It's there.
Yeah. Sad but true.
So on data retention, this is Mark. I just Googled that. It says that the client data is retained until the client requests in writing that the data be deleted.
I can't see how they could do it for ongoing. It's got to go somewhere eventually, because we would have millions and millions of hits. So I'm wondering, how often do they purge it? How often do they start all over? Something has to give somewhere. I don't know. I will ask the districts and see what they give me back.
And everybody remember, regarding the information that's stored online, we do have a link on the intranet with all of the data mining sites that we have used to find staff's information. So you're always welcome to go in the intranet, and you can do an online exposure search on yourself. Or you're always welcome to call your regional support specialist, and we can walk you through that process. I believe Kyle has his hands up. Do you have a question?
Yes. Somebody said something about asking one of the districts about the Raptor system. From what, let me back up and just give my basis of information. I sat through a presentation by Raptor, the actual company Raptor, about 3 weeks ago at our Child Advocacy Center as they were trying to get in to set up their system there for monitoring the people coming and going. And as they termed it, a background check. They're marketing their system as a background check. It's not a background check. The only thing it checks is sex offender stuff. Everybody out there thinks that this thing does background checks with criminal history, this, that, and the other. Even our school districts think that. I spoke with a superintendent just the other day on a school investigation case. He brought up the Raptor system as far as adding somebody to it, and mentioned something about background checks. And I carefully explained to him that it wouldn't catch this person because of an arrest. And he did not understand that. But when we were doing the presentation with Raptor, Raptor is a nationwide company, from what I'm gathering. They're in school districts nationwide. They're in daycares. They're in child advocacy centers. They're in, I'm sure, in private schools and everything else. Again, they market their thing to be a background check. It was also understood in talking with them and asking them questions. They do maintain a database of everybody that's come and gone that has had their ID scanned into the system at your location, whatever location you got it set up as, for a certain period of time. I didn't ask them. I would assume it is until that organization says purge it. But they do maintain a database for an extended period of time there. And so one of the biggest things that I keep finding is people think that thing's doing a full background check, and you can be somebody that's convicted of murder, just got out of the penitentiary yesterday, and walk right through that Raptor deal as long as you've got an ID, and walk right into these schools and these places that have the Raptor system in place.
I wholeheartedly agree with you 100%. When it first started and we started having to use the Raptor machine and it wasn't an option anymore, it was during the first set of the school violence. However, Raptor's only checking for sex offenders. So it didn't make sense to me either, but nobody asked me when they created these laws and changes. So here we are. But yeah, you're 100% right. It does not check for everything that you would think it should.
I don't think that we have an epidemic in this country of sex offenders trying to sneak into a school to offend on children.
Right. Yeah, they're checking for the wrong things at this given time. Yeah.
Yes. But then they've also convinced the school districts, whether they meant to or didn't mean to, I think it's through their marketing. Most of your school districts do believe if you ask a secretary, if you ask a principal, if you ask those kind of people about that system, they will tell you it's doing a background check. They will tell you it's checking your criminal history. It's not.
I just shared the link for the opt-out handout that we have online. Again, you're more than welcome to click on that, and you can search yourself up to see what, if any, information is available online. We always suggest that if you do that, look for your information at least twice a year, because those sites do update their information, guys. Even if you pay, they're constantly updating, so you're just gonna have to keep paying out of pocket. Honestly, you can do this yourself without having to pay. It's really easy. Again, it's just up to you to stay on top of it. Any other questions?
Did you see, or there's one about rapid check for non-US IDs? Did you see that?
So that I don't know. Miss Felicia, do you know about that? How does the Raptor system check for non-US IDs?
No, I don't. And who's that coming from?
Trevor Avery asked.
Okay. Let me follow up and I'll get back with you.
Oh, Denise Brady. She put, just to be clear, DFPS is not requiring the use of RAPTOR. The schools are requiring it. And she said the law does not require schools to use it. They gave y'all a shout out. Robert says, thank you very much. This was a much needed informational session.
Any other questions, guys, before we log off? Well, again, remember, do not let them make copies of your IDs, guys. If they tell you something, contact your education specialist. And please, if you can, take a look at that handout that we have on the internet. It's very beneficial. Again, you have to stay on top of that. There's no guarantee for your information never to pop up again. So doing it once during your tenure as a BFPS employee is not going to be beneficial to you. You have to do it multiple times a year. So thank you again for joining us. If y'all have any questions, y'all have our contact information. Y'all can always email the worker safety website or email contact us personally on our work emails or state cell phones. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. Ms. Felicia, thank you again for being available for any questions that our staff had.
You're so welcome. Thank you for including me.